Now to get the racing underway here at Oulton Park, the Ducatis are on the grid, they are formed up, so let's go over to our commentary team for this one. A former World Superbike champion, Neil Hodgson, and he sits alongside Jack Bernicle.
The man who's never been World Superbike champion. Here we are with a splendid 24-man grid after what was actually a scintillating race yesterday, the 10-lap Ducati TriOptions 848 Challenge, witnessed by my colleague Neil Hodgson, and it resulted in a narrow victory for Dynamite Dennis Hobbs, the Gisborough man who now works up at the Knockhill Racing Circuit, grabbing his first victory of the season. But the man on pole position is the tiny little Ben Field. Look how long a reach it is for him down to his box. The tiny Ben Field set the fastest lap yesterday, 1:42.016, but got deprived of third place, apparently, Neil, because he passed underneath a yellow flag.
That's right. He was coming towards a hazy chicane. I think actually it wasn't, obviously it wasn't intentional. I think he was like in the rider's slipstream, so he just couldn't see the flags, and the other riders saw it, and he dived up the inside of everybody, and it was quite a courageous move, and it was very spectacular because that looked like he'd gone down a gear too many almost because he backed in. But anyway, the stewards saw right, and he got penalised for that, but he was riding amazing.
Dennis Hobbs actually therefore won it from former champion Leon Morris. Ben Field was pushed back down to fourth place, which meant Marty Nutt inherited third place under 16 points, and with the early championship leader, who's won 5 races, remember, 4 on the trot earlier in the season, Jonathan Railton, having a relatively desultory ride into 5th place for 11 points, it means that Marty Nutt's opened up a colossal 6-point lead in this tightly fought championship. And Jonathan doesn't seem to have been the same since he had that crash, Neil. He seems to have dented his confidence a bit.
Yeah, it's funny. And when you hear about riders saying they've had the confidence dented, the layman at home will assume that that's because of fear. It's the exact opposite. You never lose your confidence because you're scared you're going to get hurt. You lose your confidence because you lose that little bit of feel from the bike, and you're going to lose points. So your fear is failure. Your fear is failure that you're not going to win the championship, not fear like, oh, this might hurt, believe it or not. So he has lost a bit of confidence, but that's not him being a wuss, you know what I mean? He's lost a bit of confidence, meaning he just hasn't got quite that feel that he had. But I did speak to him last night. I could tell he was disappointed with his result. That's his worst result that he's finished by a long shot. So I've got a feeling we'll see maybe a bit of the old Jonathan Railton in this race.
Jonathan Railton will start from the second row of the grid. That in itself is fairly unusual. Second row start then for Jonathan Railton, who was the championship leader and is now lying in second place. Ben Field will start from pole. Leon Morris, the 2011 champion on the Pro Waste Solutions Ducati, will start in second place. Dennis Hobbs, despite being the race winner, starts in third. And Spike Edwards getting himself back into the fray after a couple of colossal crashes. And doesn't seem to have dented Spike's confidence too much, but there again, he's you know, he's almost of a vulgar age to be doing this, really.
And you would think, actually, at 51 years old, it would affect his confidence. I mean, we're talking about a man here who's raced for 3 decades. He actually broke his back not long ago at all. You know, like, what was it? He broke his back just over a month ago, you know, and he's back racing, and he's as fast as ever. Nothing slows him down. He's so impressive. And do you know, I know he does a lot of teaching schools. I see him at a lot of track days. I do lots of track days with focused events, and he's always there, and he's teaching teaching all sorts, young kids or guys that are just getting into racing, some older guys, and he's just so passionate about motorcycling, and he's very good at teaching people.
Brilliant. Mike Edwards then, at the moment, of course, he's now down in 6th place in the championship, having missed a couple of rounds. Marty Nutt leads it by that not particularly large 6 points from Jonathan Railton. And then another 56 points back to Leon Morris, who's just ahead by 10 points of Dennis Hobbs, yesterday's winner. Darren Fry 5th, Spike Edwards in 6th, ahead of Fowler, Ben Field, Byron Beckett and Dean Brown in 10th place. And then Ed Smith, Jack Keane, who was a great violin player who used to perform with my dad, Sean Neary, Simon Brown, Holden Wilson, Poyser, Galloway and Brown rounding out that top 20.
One thing we are going to see, Jack, and I'm guaranteed, and I'll bet even a large amount of money with you, Ben Field is a missile off the line because he's so small. He weighs, well, he looks like he weighs about 7 stone. Seriously, he's a diminutive character, but he's also an ex-motocross rider. And you always find, like a Chris Stoker-Walker, the ex-motocross riders seem to be good out the gate, good at starts, and just watch. We will see. Obviously, he'll prove me wrong now. I've said it because I've given it probably the tempted fate, but I'm confident Benfield will be the first person into the first corner.
We saw from that slow-mo how tiny Ben looked in front of the other giants like Marty Nutt behind him. Benfield then, going for the whole shot of pole position ahead of Leon Morris, Dennis Hobbs and Mike Edwards. Jonathan Railton heads up row 2, ahead of Marty Nutt, Darren Fry and Sean Neary. Row 4 headed up by the number 34 of Kevin Schwantz, I beg his pardon, Daniel Fowler, Dean Brown, Byron Beckett and Alex Simon. Riding with Jean-Michel Bale's number. And then on the 4th row, we've got Mark Cheetham ahead of Louis Dawson, Ricky Holden and Ed Smith. So we're going to check out the action now on, there's number 14, Benfield, looking if he can reproduce that lightning fast start. James Folkard holds the lap record, 142.887 round here, set in July 2012. Except it was the old lap record. Benfield well and truly broke it by 0.8 of a second during yesterday's 10-lap sprint. Here we go again. 10 berserk Ducati laps around Oulton Park, the 2.7-mile Cheshire Circuit. Watch for Benfield on that number 14 bike, and he pins it down to Old Hall corner, and a clear leader by about 3 or 4 bike lengths into Old Hall. A clean start then, just as predicted by Neil Hodgson. Down the avenue they go, swooping through the right-hander down to the tighter than it looks left at Cascades. And Benfield has the initial advantage. Well, he can't be done from overtaking underneath the yellow flag out there. How long can he hang on to it? He'll certainly have the boys behind him. Dennis Hobbs right there behind him. Leon Morris, 2011 champion. Marty Nutt, the championship leader, ahead of Spike Edwards and Sean Neary. And another gloomy start by Jonathan Railton. A lot of work to do in 7th place ahead of Darren Fry. Well, even spots of rain down there.
I was going to mention that, Jack. There were spots of rain earlier today, in the morning warm-ups, and a lot of the riders came in, obviously, because of that. So, yeah, it's one of those days. It's just sitting around this rain, and it's so frustrating because it's like a perfect day today. The temperature's not too high. This track's an amazing track, and it can just spoil it. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
You'll notice that Dennis Hobbs on the big black machine there, the winner yesterday, confidence soaring, the just-turned 31-year-old from Gisborne in North Yorkshire, now working, of course, at the Knockhill Racing Circuit and living near it in Scotland, looks very, very keen, impatient even, to get past the early leader, Benfield. But what a contrast, all 13 stone and 6'1" of Hobbsy, crowding out the tiny little Benfield. Oh! Someone had a big moment through Druids and lost the outside foot peg.
It's easy to do around there, Jack. It's incredibly bumpy. It's the point in the corner where you're on maximum lane. Hobbs straight Dennis. Yeah, Dennis. And he has run a little bit wide, and I think, no, I was going to say he's going to be able to get past. That's a good camera angle. I won't like his job.
So, Dennis Hobbs has grabbed the lead. I think it was Sean Neary who had the big moment out of it. Why is it easy to lose that outside foot peg?
What happens there, Jack? It's incredibly bumpy, and you are on maximum lean, and at that point, as the bike literally hops across the bumps, you can flick the outer leg off. It's something I've seen quite a lot. It's just one of those corners that does it.
Jonathan Railton's still down in 7th, James. He's losing ground to both Hobbs and number 77, the 3rd-placed Marty Nutt, who leads him in the championship.
But this is what we've seen all year. All year, it takes Jonathan Railton 2 or 3 laps to get into it. The reason being is he rides a 1000cc Kawasaki in the Superstock class, so he's always jumping from one motorcycle to the next. The problem is, a Ducati is such an individual motorcycle, the twin-cylinder engine, it's got all that torque, and it's so different to his Kawasaki.
Oh, whoa! Oh, steady on. And, what a beautiful dismount. That was great. That was Regis Laconi, ladies and gentlemen, performing aerial antics. It was actually Chris Richardson from Bristol on the silly racing Ducati. Well, Chris, it was...
he did nothing wrong there. He was completely nudged, actually. He did nothing. And he's done well to control it so well and actually have quite a graceful get-off.
And I think, was that number 81, Aaron Brown, who did the nudging on the Penzo Ducati? I think it might have been. So unlucky for the silly racing Ducati there of Chris Richardson. Meanwhile, Dennis Hobbs at the front field is right there with him, ahead of Marty Nutt and Spike Edwards.
And again, like I say, I spoke to Jonathan Railton last night, and he said, I said, what are you gonna do different? And he said, I am going to be faster on those opening laps. And I tell you what, he did get a bad start. His first lap was poor, but already I've just seen he's gone onto the back of everybody now. So he's in 7th place, but he's actually closing in. He's going faster than them.
So we'll check out the times as they cross. Hobbs does a 1:42.6 and a 1:42.0. Eagle-eyed spotting by Neil Hodgson there. 1:42.073. And that might even be a new lap record. I'm just checking 1:42.0. Oh, no, within a whisker of Benfield's new lap record from yesterday. So a punishing pace then. There's Railton, the back of those three. We've now got 2 3s and 2 3s. And Railton looking to try and make a move. A ride-through penalty for number 70, Neil Appleby from Accrington on the Italsport Ducati, who... somehow, Neil, you're obviously a man who gets easily confused like me because you started from the wrong place on the grid. So you've done it quite how you do that without offending someone else. It's like taking someone else's seat in a railway carriage. Dennis Hobbs leads the way then. Neil Appleby should have been 19th on the grid. We don't quite know where he lined himself up. Down the hill, over the crest, into the Hizzy chicane, and a bit of a hard-breaking speed wobble there from Dennis the Menace. Dennis Hobbs, who... a class rider in his day, Hobbs, you know. He's actually wild-carded in World Superbikes and finished in the points, as well as being a 3rd place in the 2007 British Supersport Championship.
He's actually a very, very experienced rider, and he's not that old. I'm sort of surprised because he's been around for so long. I think he's only about... He's 30 or 31.
I'm not sure whether he's just turned 30 or 31. I'll check that with him, but I've got 2 conflicting dates. You often have that when you have different sheets from different eras. At the moment, though, Dennis the Menace is leading.
Oh, Benfield had a massive slide then, Jack. He's lost a lot of time. It flicked him out of the seat, but do you know what? He's kept that throttle pinned. He actually hasn't lost a lot of time, but it was a big moment. Let's hope they show that again.
Number 14, Benfield from Birmingham on the Rapido Sport Racing Ducati. Here he goes.
Watch Benfield. It's the 2nd bike in the shot. Watch the back of the bike come out and slide. Oh, maybe not quite as big as I first thought, actually, but he caught it well, and he actually, like I say, he didn't lose any time.
And of course, being the Rapido Sport Racing team, he's got that beautiful... well, we've got a faller here, good, proper one. And I think it might be number 58, Byron Beckett, from Norwich on the SAS Racing Ducati, who's gone down.
And this will be a big crash if it shows it, because it's on the entry to Cascade, so it's an incredibly fast corner. Let's watch this. Oh, yeah, like I say, it's fast. It's fast. He's actually got away with that quite lightly, but yeah, you do not want to fall off there.
The gravel did a good job.
Did a really good job
for him and the bike. So, meanwhile, back at the front, Dennis Hobbs still leads the way, but Benfield's really coming on. Look at this. He surges back on the 4th of 10 laps, surprises Hobbs, and retakes the lead as they drop down into the Hizzy chicane, rounding Knickerbrook. What I was going to say, of course, Benfield, Rapido Racing Ducati, that beautifully painted, Tommy Hill designed Ducati 848, the same as the Panigale in British Superbikes. Looks beautiful.
It seems funny, a Tommy Hill designed bike. You know, I mean, that's obviously Tommy Hill. He's taken a year off from racing, and he's a graphic designer, and I believe he's very, very good.
With a flourishing business. Here comes Hobbs underneath at Lodge Corner. A bit of a block pass, but works sweetly. Hobbs gets back to the front. He's gone very wide, though. Benfield chops back across. Hobbs is going to have another go, I'm sure. No, he's not close enough as they drop down to Old Hall Corner. So it's now Field, Hobbs, Nutt, Morris, Edwards, Railton now 6th, Neary 7th, ahead of Fry and Fowler.
And I've got to say, we've seen Benfield. You know, he's been around it, you know, not that long. Like I say, he's an ex-motocross rider. This is as good as I've seen him in a race. You know, he's the sort of rider he's been getting good starts, but we've seen him drop back time after time, and you know, now he actually looks so comfortable there battling for the lead. And we've got to remember, Dennis Hobbs won the race yesterday, and he's on a crest of a wave, really, with confidence. And Benfield's doing a really, really good job. I'm very impressed.
Dennis Hobbs, who missed the first round through injury, incidentally not motorcycle-related injury. Dennis finds various ways of hurting himself. We'll have to check out which way this was. Some of them are on motorbikes, some of them not. He's got a wonderful kind of shed load of sponsors: Car Masters Glasgow, Ducati Glasgow, Realise, Capitalise, Autovol, Bob Scott Bikes, Nut Travel, Knockhill Racing Circuit, and XL Signs all contribute to getting that black Ducati on the line. And you need people like that to help you out when you're an absolute stock privateer. And Benfield in the front, just ahead of him on the Rapido racing bike.
I've got to say, Jack, this is going to be a very, very fast lap. This is going to be under the lap record that we saw got smashed. He got smashed yesterday by, I think, was it 0.8 of a second?
That's right, and Hobbs has picked it on the first two splits.
This is going to be the first 1:41 lap round Oulton Park on a pretty much standard 848 road bike. Let me just explain. That's only 4.5 seconds off what the superbikes are doing around here.
Yes.
I mean, that's impressive.
Oh, look at that. That's a great shot of them coming out of D Elite. Whippy past 141.626. Ben Field it is, who put in a fantastic last split under pressure from Dennis Hobbs. New lap record, first time and Dennis did a 141.7. So together they broke that 142 barrier. Everybody else in the 42s, including third place Marty Nutt.
And I cannot emphasise it enough. That is motoring round here on one of these bikes.
And they look, well, actually, I was going to say they both look comfortable. Field looks more comfortable than Dennis. Dennis's bike tends to be moving around a bit more.
Yeah, and you sometimes get that, because Dennis is a heavier rider, you sometimes see it moving, it actually works the tyres a little bit more, so, you know, that's why the bigger riders that you see, but it's funny how that sort of works, that bigger rider, that weight sometimes works at places that there's lots of undulations, like the TT or somewhere like that, you know, where the lighter riders seem to get pinged around a little bit.
Well, it's the opposite here with Field. He looks really comfortable on it.
It's
not really shifting around.
Really, really good.
The Rapido racing guys obviously have a lot of experience with Ducatis. It's just the sweetness of the setup, perhaps.
Yeah, an incredible team, and like you say, it's all about the experience, and they know what they're doing.
They're certainly getting the better of Marty Nutt at the moment, because they're moving away from the Irishman now by a substantial amount. These two are looking like they're going to be the guys on the 6th of 10 laps, 4 to go at the end of this one, who are going to contest this race. And just to prove me wrong there, Ben Field all over the place as he came out of Druids.
It's easily done, that one, though. As you go over the crest, it's quite easy to get slightly unsettled, and any sort of body movement at the wrong time can cost you a lot of time.
Thundering across the line onto the 7th of 10 laps, and once again in the 141, so they're running lap record pace, lap on lap. Nutt versus Morris it's now broken up into 3 2s. We've got Nutt versus Morris there for third place, and there's the battle involving Spike Edwards and Jonathan Railton. Now, they say that Spike's hard to pass. He's about as wide as a London bus out on a track, and you can see that Jonathan hasn't managed to scrape a way through yet. He's going to try, though, as they approach Island Bend, comes out of the slipstream, but not quite quick enough.
No way. No way. But it was, wasn't it? That was impressive, that, because he was pretty much alongside Edwards. This is Mike Edwards again, and we always mention it, but he's 51 years old, and he's quick, really quick, and aggressive. He's having none of that.
But what he did become aware of is how lanky Jonathan Railton is. Suddenly there seemed a huge amount of frontal area when he pulled out of the slipstream, didn't they?
And do you know what, I'll be honest, I think he is losing a little bit on acceleration, because just his gangly size. He's actually not that heavy, he's not, you know, but he's just a big lad, isn't he? Big broad shoulders, a bit like myself, Jack. It's like getting that in there.
Yeah. We know
I haven't, but, you know, I just like to say it.
It's all that bodybuilding you do, mate.
Well, I don't like to talk about it, but, you know, I am a lot bigger now.
So at the moment, Ben Field still leading the way from Dennis Dynamite Hobbs. And Jonathan Railton still stuck in 6th place, the project engineer for a telecoms company in his real life. Oh, and a big moment for Ben Field as we dropped into Lodge Corner there. That's the battle for 3rd place. And at the moment, it's Leon Morris who's trying to find some way past the championship leader, Marty Nutt. So this is great. We want to have 3 cameras at a time on these 3 duels going on. Dennis gets fast out of it. Certainly, what he seems to be working on is his exit speed to get himself into a position to overtake somewhere on the break.
That's exactly what's happening. You can see Ben Field already. He's just taking a slightly defensive line, which is the right thing to do. He's just making himself that little bit wider, and he's making Dennis Hobbs work very, very hard.
We're on the 8th lap of 10. Ben Field pulls away as they drop down through Island Bend, and that ensures he's not going to be under attack through the Shell Oils hairpin. Marty Nutt still clinging on in front of Leon Morris. They're lapping almost a second quicker than these two, though. These two, they just crept into the 42s then, but really, this is the point, as you mentioned earlier, where we might expect Ben Field to just drop a little off the pace, but there's no sign of that now. Perhaps it's just experience.
I think it is. I think he's really learned and understanding how to ride this bike, and he just got the bit between his teeth. You can see it going, oh, he's out the seat.
Again. now Dennis...
Now that was a wise thing, a nice long look from Dennis Hobbs. He now knows, right, we've got plenty of gap on third place. I can try something. I can try a lunge. If it pushes us both wide, it's not going to cost us positions. That's such good information to have.
So Dennis now knows that these two are fairly isolated at the front. He's going to launch something. It might even be right now into the final lodge corner, and it is neat and tidy. Through he goes into Deer Leap, and then when again he runs a bit wide on the exit to Deer Leap. This time he pulls it back before he can get attacked, and holding the initial inside line and then breaking confidently into Old Hall corner. These of course are the grounds of Oulton Park Old Hall that was destroyed by fire back in 1926 before anyone...
that's just showing field. Just get out of the seat.
Ouch.
I'll tell you, but Dennis Hobbs, just watched him through that first corner. I'm excited to see his first split. He was on the limit, and he used every inch of the track.
So let's see what he does with a bit of clear track in front of him now. Hobbs just opening up a couple of bike lengths as they go through Island Bend. Behind him, Martin Nutt has lost that third place, and with it, just a few crucial points there, of course, because he'll drop from 16 points to 13 if he loses out to Leon Morris right to the race end. And we're on the penultimate lap, 9 out of 10.
And it's the battle of the big guys versus the small guys. We've got Dennis Hobbs and Field. Dennis Hobbs is huge. Ben Fields is minute. We then get Martin Nutt, who's quite a big guy, against Leon Morris, who's minute. And then we've got the Jonathan Railton, who's 6 foot, pretty much, and Mike Edwards going at it.
Jonathan Railton has nabbed that 5th place. Now, that means that Marty's only going to benefit by a couple of extra points, so the championship's going to stay very tight if they stay where they are now. Dennis has really broken away from Ben Field on that lap. Yep. So he's producing a stonking lap here as he charges underneath the bridge that was catastrophically damaged by an idiot in a lorry a couple of weeks ago, and has had to be temporarily reinforced just to allow us all to get in here to Oulton Park.
Hang on a minute, that was me. I was driving the lorry. All right, listen. I do that part-time, Jack, you know.
Were you the bloke who was texting while he was driving?
It's easily done.
Oh, number 10 dropping a foot there, Sean Neary trying to get inside number 3, Darren Fry. On to the final lap then. Hobbs had a lead of 0.908 of a second. He was the only man underneath the 42 barrier with a 141.99.
And that's a fail. It's Ben Field.
Yeah, I think Field's gone down. Ben Field's gone down on his final lap. He was having such a good ride. And Ben Field's gone down, and fast as well, coming down the avenue.
Coming down towards Cascades.
Yeah. And Dennis Hobbs is suddenly riding in splendid isolation. And Ben Field taking a mighty tumble there. And oh, Neil, if he'd only just settled for that 2nd place, he had no pressure on. He could have just ridden home for those 20 points.
Oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. That is not a nice place to crash. It's easy to crash there. You approach it so fast. You're trying to change direction. It's 3rd gear entry. Well over 100 miles an hour, and it looks like he's took the front, and he's been ragdolled about a little bit. That's not a nice crash.
So Dennis Hobbs leads it by, well, he led it by just under a second from the now absent Ben Field, so he'll have...
Is he going to look over his shoulder here? Is he going to check that? Watch this. Oh, he lost it on the bump. Wow. That is big, big crash.
Wow.
As you change direction there, it's the nature of Oulton Park. There's so many of these wallowy bumps, and it's just mistimed it, and it's flicked the back end out. And literally, from that point, Jack, you're a passenger on the bike, and he actually did well to get off it. If he'd have sat on the bike, it'd have been even bigger than that.
Certainly flicked him. He's conscious of talking to the medic, so that's good news then. So things look pretty all right then for the early leader, Ben Field, but it's the late leader who takes victory. He does the double here at Oulton Park. Dennis Hobbs takes victory. Once again, Leon Morris, the 2011 champion, continues his return to form ahead of Martin Nutt, who gets those 16 points, which opens up his lead over Jonathan Railton in 4th place to 9 points in the championship. Spike Edwards 5th, Darren Fry is 6th ahead of Sean Neary. Fowler is in 8th place, and I think Dean Brown will move into 9th place after the departure of Ben Field. So Dennis Hobbs, look at that average speed. Neil, 94.3 miles per hour average speed.
Not bad at all,
that is it.
That's not bad at all. Like I said earlier, these are they're a standard 848 road bike, and they're lapping pretty much within 4 seconds of what the factory superbikes are doing. I mean, it's so impressive.
And of course, both these guys, Marty Nutt and Dennis Hobbs, with real experience and pedigree in British Supersport and Irish Supersport racing. They've both been. Dennis has been a race winner in British Supersports. Marty rode for several years in British Supersports, won the Irish Championship, and good to see Ben Field up on his feet, looking slightly dazed.
Well, I've heard of so many people in the paddock talk about this kid, Ben Field, of how good he was on a motocross bike. He was a real top doer in his youth, and as you know, Jack, more than anyone, any top schoolboy motocross rider, any top motocross rider is tough, and he's tough, isn't he? You can tell he's had a big wag, checking his collarbone, which is pretty standard. I mean, you can see he's had the wind knocked out of him. I feel so bad for him. He needed that. He needed to get that over the line, you know, so...
He looks about 15. Is there a minimum age limit for this class?
No, he's older than that, but... oh, I do feel for him. Oh, well.
So, well, at least he's shown us what he's capable of, and a new lap record to boot. Dennis Hobbs wins it then in the end by a comfortable 3.2 seconds. It didn't look like that for 3/4 of the race. Leon Morris on the Pro Waste Solutions Ducati takes second place. Third place for Marty Nutt. Fourth place for Jonathan Railton, ahead of Spike Edwards and Darren Fry. And then we've got Sean Neary, and the next man up, Fowler, ahead of Dean Brown and Mark Cheetham in 10th place. 11th place for Dawson, ahead of Ed Smith, Simon, Ricky Holden. Wilson gets the final point. Brown, Poyser, Broadway and Appleby, the luckless Appleby, who had to ride through penalty, go away empty-handed. So the Ducati TriOptions 848 Championship, I reckon my feeble maths that Miss Polly Ranson used to berate me for at grammar school, they were right, actually. 9 points separates now Marty Nutt, the championship leader, and Jonathan Railton. It's hardly a big gap. There's a lot of racing to go yet. Leon Morris is still there in third place. Dennis Hobbs is actually closing the gap fairly radically now, so 137 points for him. Ahead of Fry, Spike Edwards, Fowler, Brown, Ben Field, sadly stuck on 68, and Byron Beckett on 65. 11th place for Ed Smith, ahead of Sean Neary and Jack Keane, and then Simon, Brown, Holden, Wilson, Cheetham, Poyser, and there's Dawson in 20th place.
Well, Dennis Hobbs is here, the race winner. Dennis, great scrap there with Ben Field. You sat there very much the stalking horse until lap 8, and then you made your move. Ben, unfortunately, crashed out behind you, but at that point, did you feel you had the win in the bag anyway?
I was feeling quite comfortable. I tried to take the lead to try and set a nice rhythm. He came past, but he's such a small guy. You know, he can pass you in a straight line, and he supports me a little bit in the corner. So I just tried to be clever and lined him up a few laps, and then I thought I could maybe hold him to the end. And 2 wins in one weekend, you know, I can't say any more than that. I want to say a big thank you, this one especially for all the guys at Knockhill Racing Circuit. Been for a tough few weeks. So this one for all them guys, all the help and support, and particularly for my wife Gemma. And a big thank you to all the sponsors again, Car Masters Glasgow, Ducati Glasgow, Autovox, Bob Scott Bikes, Nut Travel, everybody that's involved. Can't get through the full list, but really, really appreciate all the support, and we'll look to try and keep this going now.
It was brilliant to see you in that sort of form. It's great to see you back on the podium, as you say. 2 in one weekend doesn't get much better than that. We will let you go to the podium and enjoy it. Well done, Dennis.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
Dennis Hobbs there, a great rider. You remember him when he's on the super stocks as well. He can really muscle the big bikes around almost as well as he can those small bikes. But let's just remind ourselves of the highlights of that race now, and over to Jack for that.
Ben Field got a lightning fast start off pole position. The new lap record holder around here, led by 3 or 4 bike lengths as they dropped into the first turn, with Leon Morris in second place. Dennis Hobbs quickly taking over on the Black Beast, and he moved through on the inside early on as they went into Lodge Corner, and the Gisborough-born lad from the Cleveland Hills took the lead. And then a nasty moment there involving an accident well, it was a bit of a coming together. It saw off the number 58 machine of Byron Beckett. And a big moment there in field as he went through Deer Leap. But he wasn't to be outdriven. We had another big crash as well. Look at this, coming down into Cascades. And then Dennis Hobbs found himself under attack once more from the tiny former motocrosser. And Ben Field nips through, retakes the lead. Behind him, Marty Nutt's holding third place. Jonathan Railton, his nearest challenger, has moved through into 6th place. And then Dennis Hobbs, after checking that the track was clear behind him, makes one final move on the penultimate lap into Lodge Corner, takes the lead, and then Ben Field has this horrible moment coming down the avenue and crashes out of 2nd place, and gifting that 2nd place to Leon Morris. Marty Nutt runs in 3rd place to extend his lead in the championship, but Dennis Hobbs is very much the man in form, and the man from Knockhill Racing Circuit up in Scotland has taken a double race victory on his Ducati this weekend. Neil Hodgson has left me and nipped out to present the trophies to Marty Nutt for 3rd place. 2nd place for Leon Morris. Marty Nutt, of course, on the Ducati Coventry JHP Ducati. And Dennis Hobbs gives the trophy to his little girl. It's a nice move. Why wouldn't you? So Hobbsy there on top of the podium. She'll remember that, even if she doesn't remember it. We have the pictures to show her when she gets a bit older. So Dennis Hobbs gets the ultimate trophy, not just the trophy, but the wonderful little child as well. So congratulations, Marty Nutt, Leon Morris, and the winner for the 2nd time this weekend, Dennis Hobbs.
Yeah, hearty congratulations to Dennis Hobbs. Commiserations to Ben Field, putting a great ride. Just got caught up by that bump, didn't he? We're off for a short break, but when we come back, we've had the hors d'oeuvre now for the start of the main courses proper. When we come back, it's time for the first MCE British Superbikes race of the day. See you back here at Oulton for that next.